And welcome to the Nug Life podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dan Wetstein. With me, as usual, Santiago Salazar here. We are here to talk about Nuggets because after another pitiful football Sunday, we all need to wash that taste out of our mouths. So why not do it with one of the Denver teams that's actually good and talk about the Denver Nuggets? So let's go ahead and jump on into it. We got plenty to talk about. We ain't been here for 2 weeks. So first up, Nuggets have gone 4-3 since our last episode. What was the most impressive win out of those for you so far?
Oh, I think the last one with the Clippers, just because they're coming off that game where they go an extra quarter with OKC. I don't know what it is being against OKC and having atrocious third quarters, and then going into the fourth being down by double figures. But, they find it within themselves to crawl back in that game and, play an extra 5 minutes. And you always think after those kind of games, you're going to be tired, especially going against a team like the Clippers that are uh, prioritize defense. But they went in there, they controlled the game all the way through. So that Clippers win actually showed what this team is made of and that they have the mentality to not let their foot off the gas.
I like you taking that, not so much taking the low-hanging fruit, but that's exactly what I'm going to do, which is the 98-97 win against Dallas. That was the most improbable win probably since the 7-man game in Utah. I'm not quite ready to put it above that, but them without any of their stars, nothing but guys off the bench, pulling up Jack White as a two-way player out of the G League, and they go
Yeah.
out there against an almost perfectly healthy Dallas squad and beat them in their house. That was as sweet as it gets. And just to be able to see Zeke Naji be able to talk mess to Luka, that just made it the best in every way for me.
Yeah, that was probably the second. Yeah, it was between that Clippers game, the Dallas game, and the OKC game. Just because the OKC game, whenever you can come back and fight your way back in the game and come up with the dub, that's always a good victory. The Dallas game, you need to take at least one of those games. So I feel like the Nuggets were destined to at least take one of those games. I didn't like how the only game they took was a nail biter, and it was should have been won in better fashion. But a win's a win.
Yeah, I mean, well, hey, when you have 4/5 of your starting lineup go out with either COVID or another illness, I mean, having an
Work.
expectation of taking one of them out of somebody else's house is a bit of a stretch for me. But I get what you're saying. Like they needed to get one of them, but the fact that they were able to scratch out one, regardless of how much of a nail biter and again, a bunch of backups and bench players held Luka and company to less than 100 points. That's what made it the most impressive to me was the defensive efficiency and effort that came from all of these guys that before that game, the first game where they lost 127 to 99, they had no idea that they would be playing. Jack White thought he'd be playing in the G League. Then all of a sudden he's having to go up and D up Luka Doncic. So the way they were able to respond, that was the greatest showing that I believe really reinforced what I said last week is this is the deepest team the Nuggets have ever had.
Well, both games against the Mavs, they were undermanned. They weren't really healthy. In the first game, it kind of went as expected, gave up almost 130 points. And that's just the epitome of the coaching of Michael Malone to gather a bunch of these young guys, some of these guys who were in the G League a couple nights before, and to gather them together and say, we need to lock down, we need to play a better game. And you saw what happened. They held the Mavericks into the next game, less than 100 points, beat them by a point, which is not the nicest score, but I always say it, and I'll keep saying it, a dub's a dub.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. We've all been saying this since the original Fast and Furious. A win is a win is a win. Like Dom said it first, we're just going to keep saying it for the millionth time. That's just what it is. If you got a problem with how a team wins, I think that says more about you than the team. In my humble opinion, as humble as I can be. Um, but let's go ahead and flip that coin from most impressive win to most disappointing loss.
Oh man, I think that's a no-brainer. That Pistons game, against a team that was going in there, I think only had 3 or 4 victories on the year. And don't get me wrong, the Pistons actually have gathered a stretch of good games going into that Nuggets game and after that game. They played the Suns for a run for their money. The Utah Jazz, who are coming back to earth from whatever planet they were playing out of their minds from, they beat them. They're still a team that's over 500, achieving over expectation, but the Pistons were able to beat them. So, losing that game to a young, inexperienced Detroit Pistons team, especially on your home floor, leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Now, it wasn't like a blowout. It wasn't nothing where the Pistons got lucky. It was a neck-and-neck game from the first whistle to the last. And for the Nuggets, they had multiple chances to win that game. It just didn't happen.
Yeah. This is where we will agree. Number one, the Detroit Pistons was absolutely an abysmal game, and number two, we always appreciate you there, babe. Appreciate you coming in. But yes, the Detroit Pistons game, the fact that they had yet to win a game on the road, the Nuggets at the time, and I still think they do have the best winning percentage at home. They had only lost one game going into that Pistons game at home, so they've gotten, even though the fact that they've had the least amount of home games and they've got one of the better road records, they've also been really good at home. So it's been really nice to see this Nugget squad never really get that high, that low. They've really kind of just slow and steady wins the race. They haven't had like unbelievable winning streaks, but they also haven't had any more than consecutive losses once this entire year. That was the when they lost to the Knicks, and then had 4/5 of the lineup go out against Dallas, lost against Dallas, but then turn around and won again. So this team does not allow things to snowball. That was one thing I was really worried about after that Pistons loss, because it just looked ugly. The Nuggets just looked gassed. I mean, maybe it's the fact that a couple of them were coming off COVID, playing at altitude. They just didn't quite have that lung capacity back yet, whatever the case was. But every time the Nuggets came back, it was like they just died at that point, and then the Pistons would go on a run. It was just back and forth like a yo-yo the whole time. And we have a new one, Damiano Cunega. I appreciate you. Hi, my man. Appreciate you coming in for the first time. I hope you enjoy what we have for you. So let's go ahead and get back into this. We can get you what you deserve. So, as I stated earlier, I believe this, obviously. I've said it multiple times, but are you in the same boat with me? Is this the deepest Nugget squad you have ever seen?
It's the healthiest team, that we've probably seen in the last year or two, obviously, without uh, any commentary. It's well documented. Deepest, uh, man, it could be a good argument for it. I don't know if Malone's had any deeper team than this. Maybe before, when Jamal got hurt, because we were so deep with the guard position. You had
Oh,
Will Barton. Um, But then you had to come in and get AG, and you had to ship off a lot of guards when you had Gary Harris and RJ Hampton. They were real deep at that guard position. And then, of course, we get Jamal gets injured, and all the guards that we shipped off, they're no longer present. So, but, for talking from top to bottom, talking about guards, wings, big man, this is a really deep team. There was, as I brought up the example, we were deep before at the guard position. Now the Nuggets are really deep at the wings for their forwards, their big man, especially with DeAndre Jordan bringing that leadership. Uh, you have Bruce Brown and KCP, who, if one of those guys are not on one night, you can rotate the other for, either or. So, yeah, I would be in agreement with you that this by far is the deepest team. And to have guys come from the G League like Jack White, Christian Brown, if you need him to play some hard-earned minutes any given night, he can do it for you. So for sure, I'm all in with that narrative that this is the deepest team so far in Michael Malone's coaching tenure with the Denver Nuggets.
I'm glad that we're both on that same page, and I am glad that you decided you wanted to come out and speak with us. This is what we love. This is why we do lives, guys. If you're out there, if you're watching, please always leave a comment. We will bring you on. We will have these conversations with you.
Well,
We appreciate it, and always remember, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up. It's free for you, priceless for us. So we're glad that you're enjoying it. We're glad that we're doing a great job for you. And we're going to continue to try and keep those expectations high. But keeping on the depth here with the Nuggets, we got Bruce and AG taking that next step. Bruce gets his first triple double, and the Nuggets improve to 5-1 with him starting. AG goes for 31 and 29 in his last 2 starts. Are you convinced that Bruce Brown deserves to stay in the starting 5 once they are all fully healthy?
I'm completely convinced. It's just a matter of you have a stuck in the dilemma here. Do you want to have that guy starting for you, or would you want him running with that second unit, to have energy for it? Because a lot of these games where the Nuggets come out from halftime, uh, and they come and just have a very lackluster third quarter where they're getting blown out, outscored by 15 to 20 points. You want someone to come off the bench, if it's not a Bones Highland who, just bring a spark of energy. And I feel like Bruce Brown, outside of Bones Highland, is that guy off that bench who can help you at least on the defensive end and, bring some energy out of his teammates. So it is a dilemma, like I said. To have a guy like that come off the bench is something that's just, wonderful, especially a two-way player. Bones is, you know, in the argument for sixth man of the year, but he's not a two-way player. He's more of a scorer, more of a guy who's going to affect the game offensively. Bruce Brown is going to affect the game on both ends of the ball from 94 feet from baseline to baseline. So I think he fits anywhere, but you hear that stat 5-1 when he's starting, you can't look away from that, and that's probably the best recipe right now when the Nuggets are fully healthy.
Yeah, especially when you add in the fact that the Nuggets have a losing record by 1 game when it's KCP in the lineup, in the starting lineup without Bruce Brown. When you throw Bruce Brown in there with KCP, then KCP gets a winning record. But that's my thing, is that you have that luxury of having a KCP where if you swap him and Bruce, you get definitely get more offense on the bench, a little bit better, a little bit less defense than what you would have with Bruce Brown. But I really think that the Nuggets starting lineup needs more defense than what the bench does. The bench needs more scoring, because you've seen Vlatko going out in there and blocking shots. You've seen Jack White come in. He might not have scored a point, but he was out there playing defense and blocking shots. So if you take a little bit of that defense away, that's already very deep on the bench, because you still got Peyton Watson, who really hasn't really gotten any minutes, who is a defensive specialist. You've already mentioned Christian Brown. I mean, the depth of defense on the bench is much deeper than in the starting lineup. As much as we love Joker, he is not a post player. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and block a bunch of shots. He's not a rim protector. He plays good defense for a center, but he's not great. That is not what they have Jokic for. He's for everything else that he does, and the fact that he does everything and he does play defense. Again, not great defense, but he plays defense. Jamal Murray, same thing. All offense, very little defense.
Well,
and so,
go
ahead.
But you blocks, man. You see that block from Ish Smith against in that Clippers game. Blocks the shot. Someone 5 inches taller than him takes it up. I know this is off track. I'm sorry, but you brought up blocks. Ish Smith blocks.
It's on the same vein.
He's about as tall as me, and I'm not a short human being, but by NBA standards, I don't want to use any derogatory words, but I'm a short man. All right, I'm a short man,
little person.
And so, being 6 foot 5'11" in the NBA, and to block someone who's 6'5" and to dribble it up court and throw it up for a lob, like that was probably the best highlight of Ish Smith's career, and not Nuggets' career. I'm talking about his journeyman career altogether. But go on. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, I was actually going to I was about to get to Ish Smith, so you actually jumped in at the perfect time. Yes, that block and then transitioning into offense, and again, that there was example of Bruce Brown. It was Bruce Brown that took that alley-oop right after that block. So the athleticism, the explosion, the cutting ability of Bruce Brown, I think, is more advantageous than what KCP brings in the starting lineup. KCP brings a deadly three-point shot. The man's still shooting almost 50% from three, but he does nothing, absolutely nothing in the paint. And when it comes to the paint and even on defense at some point in stretches of games, it's not just like one possession true. He's just completely checked out defensively for stretches in games. So
Which
I
is
say putting him on the bench, having two snipers with Bones and him. I just think that scoring, along with the defense of a Vlatko and Zeke and guys like that, would be more advantageous than currently with KCP in the starting lineup. That's just my opinion.
you talk about high 3-point percentage. Aaron Gordon has just been so impressive, man. And I tweeted the other night. Uh, this was arguably from that OKC game when they made that run. Aaron Gordon went into that fourth quarter and that overtime with only 12 points scored. He
Yes.
finished with 31 points. To me, arguably, now I don't know, this might have been an overstatement saying it's his best game in the Nuggets uniform, but that was his best quarter and best stretch in the Nuggets uniform to go for 19 points in 17 minutes, knocking down threes, showing up a versatility of game that he's never had in his career. But I know he's always worked on it. 38%
Yes.
from the three-point land this year. He's the type of guy who's shot maybe in the high 20s, low 30s. I mean, now he's shooting where we wanted to be, especially a guy who was really brought in to cater to Nikola Jokic's play style, to be a complementary player. But now he's coming into his own, developing a three-level style score, which is, if you're an opposing team, look out. Because now you have more than Jamal, you have more than MPJ, you have Aaron Gordon to look out for on a nightly basis, not just running
Yes.
the court.
Yeah, it's what I pointed out in the beginning of this segment. He's went for 31 and 29 in the last two games. And in that 31-point game, he scored 19 points in the third quarter in overtime. I don't know what switch flipped. He went insane. The man went 4 or 5 from three. It's
Yeah.
the step that he's taken. That next step is one that shows the foresight of the Denver front office. A lot of people pan them for them paying as much as they did for MPJ and Aaron Gordon specifically, because they're like, oh, Gordon's just not going to score enough to help this team. And then this man's going out there and just throwing these dimes down constantly from deep. The way he plays in the paint, especially, is something that no other Nugget outside of Bruce Brown really offers. The way he's willing to get in there, get dirty in the paint, get those offensive rebounds, and take the hits, and still go out there and posterize folks every chance he gets. Aaron Gordon is legit. We all just need to grab our tickets, jump on, and enjoy the ride. This kid is taking another step. And with him, like you said, Murray, Jokic, KCP, Bruce Brown, Bones, the insanity of the depth of this team, and especially once they get fully healthy and they've really meshed as they're starting to over these last couple of games. Look out, NBA. This might be the favorite in the West if they continue to play the way that they're playing and add defense, which they still really haven't played on a consistent basis this year, which is scary.
The crazy thing about guys like Gordon, was he in year 7, year 8, and he's only 26, 27 years old.
Yes.
Those are just estimations. I don't know, exactly, but I'm pretty sure I'm in the range right there. This is a
I'm
new.
sure you're close. I'll get the specifics.
The last 10 to 15 years has been a new NBA. Before that, outside of the Kobe's and LeBrons, the guys drafted out of high school. But if you weren't drafted out of high school, there wasn't a one and done. It was you spent at least 3 or 4 years in college, and you came out, with the mature NBA type of body. Now with the one and done, there's so many guys coming in at 18 and 19 years old, and they spend 3 or 4 years just developing. They're not, those first 3 or 4 years are not who they're going to be. Before it was, by your third or fourth year, that's who you're probably going to be for the rest of your career. Now you see guys like Aaron Gordon propelling to a next level, developing a different kind of game. I mean, Devin Booker, you look at him, he didn't come into his own until a couple years ago, and he's been in the league for like a good 7 to 8 years. So it's just a new NBA. It's, kind of a thing what kind of made me mad why the Nuggets gave up on Bol so much, because he was so young when he came into the league, and I know his body type was very frail, but it's well documented. You got to give these guys at least 4 to 5 years to come into their own, to show and prove what they're actually made of and what they can give be for an NBA franchise.
I do agree on pretty much everything you just said. And just to give the specifics, Aaron Gordon is actually in year 8
You're eight.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're 8 and he is 27. So you were
Yeah.
almost perfect.
See,
You were about as perfect as you can get without being perfect. Um, but yeah, there seems to be a lot more late bloomers with a lot of these kids that get drafted when they're younger. Now, Aaron Gordon was 19 when he got drafted, so he was a little bit more advanced than a couple of these kids with the one and duns, and especially when you're talking about older representations back in the Kevin Garnett's and LeBron James and that were drafted in high school.
mhm.
So it's just I think you're exactly right on this. This is him just finally hitting that stride and becoming that lottery pick that the Magic thought he was. But again, giving up on Bol that was what got you Aaron Gordon. So even if Bol does go out there and turns out to be a modicum of what you think he's going to be, I'm going to take AG because on this team, a Bol would be a luxury.
Mhm.
AG on this team is a necessity.
Yeah.
He is everything that the Nuggets need. So if I got to make that trade again, even again, if Bobo goes out there and gets a couple of all stars, whatever, I don't care because his defensive inefficiencies are
Mhm.
what are the reason
Oh,
why he's in Orlando. That and his attitude. He
uh,
was that real me first. I'm not going to do the extra work because I don't feel like I'm getting repaid in enough minutes on the court, etc. So
well, it's not
take
like
and
Bulls putting these numbers up for a team like Phoenix or Boston. He's putting these numbers up for a bottom feeder type of team. If he was on a winning
yeah,
franchise like he was on in the Nuggets, he would be finding the same minutes anywhere else. If he was on a team like the Nuggets, like the Warriors, like the Celtics, teams who are win now. We have all the pieces in place. You couldn't have put it any way better. It's a luxury, not a necessity. And that's what Bol is. He's too frail on the defensive side. For someone who's 7'3", you would want him being on the floor, but that's how bad defensively he is. He'll get bodied at 7'3", 110 pounds. I don't know how much he weighs.
right.
Man, he's very frail. I probably weigh more than Bobo, and I'm a whole foot and a half shorter than him. So
I mean, he is 220, but
I don't know
definitely
if I
not.
believe. I don't know if
Yeah,
I
I
believe.
don't. Yeah, same here. I'm
He may
not
be
convinced.
20 after a shower. They probably weighed him after he got out in the locker room shower. But I don't
Fully
know.
clothed.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Ankle weight.
I don't, 220. Yeah, yeah. Ankle weights, all that. I don't know if I believe that either. But as we mentioned a little bit earlier, Nuggets improved to 8-5 on the road. Excuse me, with their latest win. What has been the biggest key to their success?
Mm, yeah, that's a good one. Just because the Nuggets in past years, and it's not even the past couple of years of the Michael Malone era. It's just the last past decade. Even when we had George Karl as our coach, it's always been kind of the Nuggets' kryptonite. Any NBA's kryptonite is playing on the road and uh, not having that home crowd, because the home crowd is without a doubt the biggest advantage. People try to tell you not they're stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. For lack of a better word. That's why I discredit the Mickey Mouse championship of the LA Lakers, because the home crowd and the energy and playing in front of a fan base just puts in adds another aspect to the game that can go against you or go with you and being an advantage. So with that being said, it is impressive that a team is even over 500, even if it's for a short stretch. But to be over 500, be 8-5 on the road so far this season, that that itself is going against a disadvantage. I don't know what it is, what the Nuggets have mustered within themselves. Maybe it is the being the deepest team that they've been in the Michael Malone era, and I can't really finger any other reason why that wouldn't be the main reason why they have been able to muster all these wins together.
Yes, 100% agreed. And we got a question here in chat. Are you worried about the Michael Porter Jr. injury?
You know what I'm
I
gonna say?
want to go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You know what I'm gonna say though. You already know.
Okay, good. All right. When it comes to this injury, there seems to be some mixed reports, some potentially troubling but potentially encouraging. So right now I want to take a wait and see approach and see what the exact diagnosis is. I've seen a lot of people comment that it's something that's been accumulative and it's his back, and there's others that it's something new. So until I get definitives of what exactly the injury is, I'm not worried yet, but that could change at any moment depending upon the information that comes out of Ball Arena.
This man has had more back surgeries or just as many back surgeries as he has thumbs at only 23 years old. He's had multiple back surgeries, and he's an unbelievable talent. That's the only thing that's going to go against him for his career is his
Yep.
health. Not going to be he's a nuisance on the court, that he's a troublemaker in the locker room, any of that. Everything is up to par. Everything is NBA All-Star level and some. He honestly, without the back surgeries, he's the second coming in of Durant and a potential perennial MVP candidate. But because the back injuries have just affected him so badly before his NBA career even began, it's just always going to be there, and it's always going to linger. But it's a necessity. I like the analogy you put earlier. Not a luxury, a necessity. And MPJ is a luxury, but a necessity at the same time, just because what he brings to the table. He's not going to be a guy, in my eyes, to be someone who's going to lead an NBA team to a championship just because of those health problems. But he will always be a dominant type of Klay Thompson type of guy. A guy you can rely on, bail you out, get a nice, sweet jump shot, and put up 30 or 40 on any given night. But that injury is very, very key to his NBA career and what the outcome will be when it's all said and done.
Yeah, the injuries are going to keep him from being a 1, let alone a 1A. And at the best right now, you might be able to say he's 1B on the squad when he's at his best. But even on this squad, normally on any given night, he's the third, maybe even fourth best player, depending on what AG is doing on the court and with his own squad. So, will he ever be worthy of a supermax? I don't think so. But it really, just like Santiago just said, it all boils down to the injuries. If he was able to stay on the court with the way that he can shoot, he could be Kevin Durant 2.0. That's the ceiling the man has, but because of his injuries, his floor is so low that it worries you. It's why people did a lot of consternation, I guess you could say, when they signed him to the big deal and the big extension. They're like, what are you actually going to get out of that deal? How many games is he actually going to be on the field or on the court? Geez, too many sports I've been talking about lately. But,
It's
you know,
PTSD today, bro. It's PTSD. I didn't really watch
it
that
really
game.
is.
Go on what you're saying. I don't want to throw
It
you
was
off.
ugly, bro. It was ugly. I don't even want to relive it. I had to watch it all because I got to talk about it tomorrow, and it's so painful. But um, the something that I don't think enough people are talking about at this point. I know it's early to scoreboard watch. Coach Malone even said as much in the post game speech, but the Nuggets are only a half game back of the Suns for first in the West.
Mhm.
Are they becoming the team to beat?
Um, no, exactly what Michael Malone said. It's too early for that. I don't really pay attention to the standings until around, the new calendar year. We switch into 2023 or maybe around All-Star break. And potentially really January and February is when it's time to start paying attention to those. Because I think what separates the first seed and the 10th seed right now is only about 4 or 5 games. So anything can happen right now. You saw the Jazz. I mean, everyone was so shocked, like, oh man, the Jazz are, you know, beating expectations. No one, this is going to be the second coming. Everyone, doubted them, left them out. But of course, there was that only 15 game sample size. Like, come on now. We all knew they would be crashing to where they're at now. They're 12-10. They're not going to be a good team. They're probably going to finish, plus 10 below 500. It's a long season, man. And the Suns, though, they are the team to beat, I would say, right now. The Warriors are 10-10. They're trying to come back from their championship hangover, whatever. But the Suns, outside of that, it's either the Suns and Dallas because they were the two teams before the Warriors that got eliminated. The Nuggets, now them being up there, now it's nice to have that narrative that we are the team to beat, but there's still a lot of proving to do. Back-to-back years, and I know we're unhealthy, didn't have MPJ, did not have Jamal Murray, but back-to-back years got swept and a first-round exit is a lot to prove. So no, we're not the team to beat yet, but we're one of a force to be reckoned with. The Nuggets are not a pretender; they're a contender at this point in stage of the season. Let's see where they're going to be at within a month or two. We'll see where they're going to be at heading into All-Star. Because right now, There's only 20 games in. They're 12-6. Are they 12-7? I believe only 20 games they've played so far. That's a quarter of the year. I want to
Yep.
see where they're at that 41 game point.
I agree. I like the fact that Coach Malone had a Kendrick Lamar moment and told everybody to stay humble. Like,
Huh.
yes, we're here, but
Something the Jazz
make
need to
sure you don't. Sorry, go ahead.
something the Jazz need to learn. Stay humble. Yeah, you're
Yes.
12-6. You're a bad team. That don't mean nothing. That don't mean
Yeah.
nothing.
No, nothing at all. And the craziest part about it, and the reason why I do want to talk, I do think it needs to be talked about a little bit more, is the Nuggets have been able to do this with the least home games of any other franchise in the NBA. They have played 7 home games in 2 months so far. They've played almost twice as many games on the road as they have at home. So the fact that they're able to fight through this, through the issues they had with COVID and injuries and illnesses, and still are sitting there in a beautiful position, almost a quarter of a way through the season. I love the fight, the bounce back from this team, the fact that it does not allow bad things to snowball, something that they've had a bad habit of doing over the past couple of seasons. And I know it's early and I might be a little out of pocket for saying this, but the way this team is acknowledging that they are one of the best in the league reminds me of that switch that was flipped with the Avalanche last year. Again, I'm not
Mm,
sitting here saying that this team is definitely going to go off and win a championship, but there is something different about this team. And they believe, they
mm.
honestly, deep down, believe that on any given night, they are the better team and that they should win almost every time they touch hardwood. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, they do have back-to-back games coming up against Houston to kind of even this out. But do you see this as more of an early detriment, or could this be something that's an advantage moving on? Because obviously they have less home games now; they got more later.
I think it could be an advantage, especially with as good of a record you have right now and dealing with as many away and road games you've had. Going down the stretch, that's just gonna add fuel to the fire. To whatever commentary people want to say about the Nuggets, maybe even me, I might be a naysayer right now. And there's probably more out there with the national media. We all know how they love to hate on Nikola and his back-to-back MVPs, and you give the Nuggets more home games towards the end of the year. I mean, that's just a recipe made for success leading into a playoff run. And this team, I was going to say, is very reminiscent. You were talking about depth. This team is very reminiscent of that bubble team when it was in the playoffs. They were deep. They had Jeremy Grant. Grant's doing wonderful things. I believe, is he in Portland now? I think he's in Portland.
Yeah,
Either or, he's just such a dominant player, and that was had Plumlee. Uh, Jamal was still healthy at the time. MPJ was still healthy. This was before AG, pre-AG era, and this team just that was a playoff run where we're the first team in NBA history to come back from 2-3-1 uh, uh, deficits in a series. And the Nuggets have had multiple wins this year where they go into a third quarter or go into a fourth quarter. They're down by double digits, and they come out and they somehow find a way just to come up with a victory. And that's a team that don't pay attention to the scoreboard. Go out there and play your butt off, and good things will happen. And this is what this team is doing. They're not giving up. They're deep in depth. Yeah, they've been a little unhealthy, but it's nothing too detrimental where you have guys missing a season or anything. So if they can stay healthy, stay together, they have the recipe with them to have more road games towards the end of the year. This is a year season where I think it's made up to have a deep playoff run for sure.
yeah. And the thing that I don't think enough people have really caught on to is the biggest difference between that bubble squad and this one is they don't have Murray going off for 50 a night yet.
Mm.
Like
Yeah,
he still has a
yeah,
season high of 24 points. Yeah, that's the key word.
yeah.
Yet they have yet to have him go off for 50 or hit his peak. He's still dealing with conditioning. That knee's been a little bit balky here and there. Then he gets COVID and I mean, the poor man just can't catch a
Okay,
break
great.
here over the last couple of weeks. So here's to hoping that these next couple of weeks he gets healthy, he gets out there, and we get to see the ultimate blue arrow. Right now, we're just seeing Jamal Murray. We've seen,
Yeah.
which is a very, very good. It's a very, very good player, but we have yet to see the real blue arrow just go out there and start knocking down shots anywhere and everywhere on the court he wants to. And once that happens, the defense starts playing like, again, they really haven't outside of that Dallas Mavericks game. This team could be scary. And it's why I'm saying the West needs to look out and they need to be ready. I hope they keep overlooking the Nuggets because that just makes it even better and sweeter every time they win. But they really need to start watching this squad out here in the Rocky Mountains because this squad is getting nasty.
Yes, sir. And so in that Clippers game, you saw Kawhi was out once again. When is he never out? Uh, he had the same injury as Jamal, ACL. Now I think Jamal's was a little bit worse, but this is perfect example of getting one of those injuries early on in your career and later on in your career. Kawhi Leonard, how
Yes.
many games has he missed? I mean, there's games he's probably been able to play, but he just doesn't want to because he has so many miles on his body. The mileage is just insane. Jamal is young, and that's what we all have to realize. Like, yes, it was a very scary injury, and it kind of, it was a little steps backwards. But at the same time, Jamal's only 25, 26. He can bounce back from this. He has time to get better and get back to the point to where he was before the injury and surrounded with players like Nikola, like MPJ, like AG. You bring in Bruce Brown, who is coming into his own. Bones Highland, who is coming into his own, is honestly the perfect situation, not just for Jamal Murray, but any kind of player like Jamal Murray, who is a perennial all-star, the best scorer that the Kentucky Wildcats have probably ever seen. It's just a perfect situation for someone who's trying to get back to where they left off.
I agree. Yeah, he doesn't have to be Blue Arrow yet. There might become a time later on in the season when other guys are injured or sick or, just need a day off because of load management that was created by Kawhi Leonard. He's the reason that we have that phrase in sports. So definitely being young, that's always an advantage when it comes to being hurt. And another thing is, I don't like people comparing Jamal to Kawhi because they're
No.
completely different issues. Uh, Murray's was purely ligament damage. Kawhi had actual damage to his meniscus, to his kneecap, and has had microfracture surgery, which literally means they go in with a little tiny drill and drill a bunch of holes
Yeah.
in your stuff.
It's
Like, he's just old and he's had a lot of surgeries on the same knee.
a lot of miles
He's
on this.
good, but yeah, a lot of miles. So
And
uh, don't compare the two. Don't try and put those two together. Now, when you want to talk about MPJ and Kawhi, that might be a little bit better of a comparison because of the lingering issues. They're different injuries, but they're both lingering type issues. But Jamal, it's a whole another ball game, and it's not the career-ending injury that it used to be. This isn't like when I was in middle school or high school and saw a guy go out and blow out his knee. That was the end of his career. Nowadays, most guys come back within somewhere between 9 to 12 months, and they're more or less the same guy they were before. Now, it also depends on the severity, what was injured, how it was repaired. All of those things matter. But as far as what I've seen, it's just the natural recourse of getting back on the court after such an injury when it comes to Jamal. MPJ is a bit more of a worry, but when it comes to Jamal, I don't really worry about what they've done. I like the way that they have lightened his load and made sure he understands that he doesn't have to take on the load. Now he has in games. What game was it now that I'm trying to think of where he went off? It was the game where he had the season high 24 points. I don't remember exactly what game, but it was where he ended up playing like almost the entire fourth quarter, and people were worried about whether or not it was going to drop him down. And the next game, they didn't play him at all. So that was my main point. It's not really about the game or the points or whatever. It was the fact that the front office is cognizant of him and they're taking it out of his hands. They're not allowing him to just be like, okay, I'm good, and they go out there. They're actively making sure that they limit his minutes, especially early in the season. That way, when it matters in the second half of the season, in the playoffs, they can let him loose.
Yeah, that game, it's gonna torture me now since you told me, or since you brought it up.
Yeah, I know it's going to torture me too, but
It might have been that OKC game, but you're completely right. That's not really what matters. It's the fact that Jamal coming back and bouncing back. Now he's not at the level as where he left off. I mean, we could all that imagine that what was going to happen was, it's not going to be instantly, all-star Jamal. It's going to be the Jamal we've been getting, 29 minutes per game on a nightly basis, 16 points per game. The 16 points, that's like second year, third year Jamal. You can tell that he's taking baby steps back to his recovery. But when the Nuggets need him the most, he's been able to step up. He just hasn't been able to do it over a long period of time, of course, because he's still nursing that injury. So the Nuggets are on the right path. Come playoff time, Jamal's going to turn into playoff Jamal, and he's just going to take over some games. I wouldn't doubt it. And, all these people who, when they were getting so mad at him last year because he didn't want to come and play in the Warriors series because the Nuggets were down 3-0 at one point, like, he's just going to slap them in their face with the performances he's about to have this playoff run, because he's just going to go completely off. Right now is the miniature Jamal you're going to see. You're going to see Super Saiyan Jamal hitting April and May and hopefully June.
I love the Super Saiyan Jamal. Yes, very much so. I agree. I think that's when you should be looking to see the blue arrow really come out and those arrows start flying out of the quiver. But getting back to these back to backs. So, real quick, for those of you that don't already know this, or may not follow the NBA closely, this year they've done something a little bit different, and they have these back to backs, like what the Nuggets just did in Dallas and earlier did in San Antonio, where they played 2 games consecutively with a day off in between in the same city. Well, for the first time, it's flipping around, and the Nuggets are getting the Houston Rockets. It's funny how they're doing all of this with Texas teams, but I digress. But they're getting Houston in Denver for 2 consecutive games. Houston is last place. This seems like it could be a reprieve, but do you feel this might be a bit of a trap?
You know me, man. I'll say it every show we have. I don't like playing these games against these bad teams. You saw what happened with Detroit. It's something about the Nuggets. They underestimate these bad opponents, as every other NBA team does, but they're still an NBA team. They have NBA players on their roster. And these guys have went through combines. They've proven throughout their whole life that they belong in the NBA. So, when it comes down to playing these bad teams, you shouldn't pay attention to the team's record. You should just go out there, play ball, and play this team with respect, because I feel that's what teams get lost in, is they play these bad teams and they just disrespect them. They feel like they're bad for a reason, but they come out and they ball. Like, you see what happened with the Detroit Pistons. You see what happened with the Utah Jazz. Now they're coming back to life, but they're bad teams, but they're still NBA players. So hopefully the Nuggets can just approach this Houston series, lock and load, and play them just like they would the Celtics or the Suns or the Warriors.
Yes, I agree. The Nuggets have had an infuriating roller coaster type of mentality when it comes to playing to the level of their competition. It has been infuriating to watch where, like, we saw the first 2 games of the season are a great microcosm. They go out and they get murdered by Utah in Utah, then turn around and beat the defending champions decidedly. Or
Yeah.
just like you said with Detroit, they win that, they lose that game, then turn around the very next night and mollywop a winning record, or team with a winning record. Like,
Hmm.
it's infuriating to see how they want to have that yo-yo, but it
Hmm.
was encouraging to see that they went out there against OKC and had back-to-back wins, didn't allow for that roller coaster mentality to really take root. Especially with having some extra, some of the starters back, some guys getting back into their roles. It really seemed to settle things down. And for them to come out and do that gives me hope that this will be a reprieve, that these will be 2 easy wins at home that they need. Although they have either the best or second best record at this point at home, when it comes to winning percentage, I want to see them take advantage of that. I want to see them go out and have those easy wins. They've really not had an easy win outside of, honestly, last night or Friday night. That's about the only one I can think of that there wasn't a worry, no matter where you were in the game, that the Nuggets were going to blow it. They just really kind of dominated that game from opening whistle to the end. So I want to see more of that. I want to see when they have these teams that are inferior, that they show that they are inferior, that they don't let them hang around and have to come back from a 13-point deficit in the fourth quarter. I don't want to see that. So, as much as I want to say it's a reprieve, I'm really terrified it's a trap.
Yeah, I'm probably leaning towards the trap. But I mean, this should be a back-to-back win completely.
It
Only
should.
if they play the Rockets and view the Rockets the same way as they view the Warriors. Now they're probably not going to, but what my point being made is if you play them with respect, playing with respect, don't pay attention to the record or how inexperienced and how youthful they are. Playing with respect, they're NBA players for a reason. They're in the league for a reason. Let's go out there and come back from Houston with 2 back-to-back dubs.
Yes, and the biggest reason why I'm worried about this being a trap is what you just brought up. Do not look at the record. The Rockets have scored 120 plus in back-to-back games against decent squads. So, can the Nuggets slow them down with the defense that they play?
Mm. Or if everyone's playing like KCP, no. But I just a team like the Rockets have back-to-back 120-point games. I mean, how much are we betting on them to do it 3 times in a row? I would bet against that. So I don't even think the Nuggets really have to. Of course, you have to play defense, but I don't know if the Rockets can do that in 3 consecutive games. With that being said, the Nuggets need to at least first team to 100 or 110 will win this game. And it's going to be on the back of Nikola Jokic this last game with the Clippers. Jokic, scored about 17 points in the first half and finished the game with 19. So if they can play with that recipe, which is having Jokic carry them to where they have a comfortable lead, and then after that, just feed off of Jokic's assists and play complementary to the big man, then these 2 games should be easy for the Nuggets, and they should be walking away from this game unscathed, and at least both victories being double digits in a perfect world, at least.
Yeah, in a perfect world, most definitely. But as we know, this world is not perfect
No,
when it comes to the Nuggets and that. I don't know
no.
why I just went black there. I apologize, y'all. But getting back to what we're saying here, Rockets scoring back-to-back games, 120 plus, making it 3 in a row, highly unlikely, especially when you're looking at this Denver squad and the way they're starting to coalesce on the defensive end, especially on the bench. Again, starting lineup got definite questions when it comes to the way that they play defense for stretches, but the bench has been pretty dang consistent when it comes to playing defense. So if the Rockets aren't able to score off the bench, they got a big problem. That's going to be the key to me. Does the Nuggets bench outscore the Rockets bench? If they do that, it's an easy win. If they don't, then that's when you get those worrisome wins or troubling losses as you did against Detroit. So I'm with you. I don't want to. I don't want to bet on the Rockets scoring 120 plus in 3 straight games, but we've also seen some crazier things happen. How many pieces away though are the Rockets? It seems like they're. I mean, they're. Well, it's not seemingly. They are definitely in a rebuild, but it seems like they're starting to get some things going, and they have some scores when it comes to Green, Porter Jr., and that. Oh, did we lose Santiago? What happened here?
All right
Oh,
here, man.
there he is.
Oh, bad, oh, bad.
Okay.
I'm
No, no,
moving
no. You're
over
good.
here. They have so many people over, so I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta separate
You gotta.
myself quick.
Oh no, you're good. I just wanted to make sure we hadn't lost you, my man. We're good. We're good. So, um, are you in a place where you can tell us how many pieces away the Rockets are?
Yeah, I'm in my new closet, man. You like it?
Okay. There. Hey, there you go. I like that. I like that.
Uh, that's like the only thing I have fully really packed. You could tell by my moving clothes. I look so stressed, bro.
You're all right, my guy. I don't think anybody would have guessed if you wouldn't have told them.
Uh, what was it? It was so
How many pieces away are the Rockets?
that a lot. I'll tell you that a lot. I know they have Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., but Kevin Porter Jr. What was uh traded away because someone gave someone his jersey number or his locker or in Cleveland, and he was mad about that, which really he could have been part of a good rebuilding team in Cleveland. You see what the Cavaliers are doing, having Darius
Right.
Garland, Donovan Mitchell. That's what immaturity does to you. Gets you out of a good situation sent to probably the worst situation in the NBA. So the Houston Rockets don't really have much to lean on. It's another year or two of being a really bad team and getting lucky in the lottery to find that piece. Because Jalen Green, yeah, he's nice, he's exciting, but he's not a franchise changing, type of player. Um, they lucked out all those years with James Harden having those chances to get to those finals, and it ran out of them, and now their time of being a bad team is here, and they're gonna have to deal with it
Yeah.
just like every other team has to deal with it and rebuild and see how fast they can rebuild.
Definitely. I think they're going to have to wear it for at least another season. They're going to need at least one more lottery pick to try and find that superstar. They got a lot of guys. They got a lot of Jags, some names. They got a name you might remember, Kenyon Martin Jr. It's
Aren't you?
not the it's not it's not the original Kmart, but it's 2.0. He's had some nice games, couple of 20-point games here over the last couple of weeks. So they definitely got pieces, but are definitely
What is like
multiple steps away. They're multiple pieces away. It's not going to take just one guy. It's going to take a couple of superstars. But I think they got the groundwork. Like they got the foundation of the house. Now they got to put up the walls and the roof and all of those extras that make it a home. You know what I'm saying? They got the foundation. Now they got to make the home. So again, why the Nuggets? It's exactly why the Nuggets need to win these games. These are reprieves. These should
without a
be
doubt?
easy games. These should be games that we don't see starters after the third quarter. That's how it should be. Like we should not see Joker, MPJ if he does get healthy for either of these games as of right now. He's not, but just saying any of the starters. I don't want to see any of the starters after the third quarter. That's how much of an easy streak this should be to end the month of November. These are the last two games of the month. End them on a high note. Send some messages to the rest of the West that y'all are here to stay and play. And so, with all that being said, let's go ahead and move on to predictions. So, all of you watching, go ahead and drop your predictions in the chat. We'd love to see what you feel it is, but we'll go ahead and start off with Santiago here.
Mm, I think at least one. It's gonna be reverse to what the Rockets had. Or no, reverse what we had in Dallas, where you have one blowout and then one real close game. But they split the series in that one. I think both games are going to go in favor to the Nuggets. The first game will be a blowout by at least 20 to 30 points. And then that second one, that's going to be the nail biter, where it's like, similar to the Detroit game from the first, from the opening jump to the last whistle. It will be, a heart stopper. But I think the Nuggets have learned from that Detroit game that you have to beat these teams, these bad teams, no matter if it's a close game or not, as long as at the end of the game you have more points than the other team. So I do believe that second game will be Nuggets victory less than 5 points, though.
I got you. Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be one blowout. There's going to be one. The first game, Nuggets are going to score, I'd say, at least 125 while holding the Rockets down below 100. I think the first game is going to be like 125 to 97. It's going to be really ugly. But these back to back games, they give that road team that opportunity to learn and adapt. And so that's why I don't believe the second game, like you said, is going to be so much of a blowout. I still see it going the Nuggets' way because they just have that. They just finally have that mentality. You see it in their eyes. They got that killer instinct. They get angry when that other team that's supposed to lose is getting theirs, and they go and they went out and they've rebounded and responded. So that second game again is going to be closer, but still win. I see the Nuggets winning that one 110 to 105.
Oh, you wanted my score prediction? Okay, my bad.
Oh no, you're good. I mean, you don't want to give a score. That's
I
good.
just
I just always give scores because that's just how I roll.
let me give you the scores, and the first one will be Nuggets 128 to 95. It'll be
Okay.
a good easy breeze win. That second one though, that will be 110 to 114.
Okay. Okay.
Not
I'm not mad at those.
favor the
I
Nuggets.
got you. All right, so we're both going rolling with the Nuggets for another week. They got 2 games coming up this week before we see you again back here next week on Saturday, as long as nobody has to move or nobody gets COVID. Because yes, unfortunately, COVID is in my house right now. I
Mm,
don't have it, but the wife and the daughter seem well. The daughter might have it. The wife definitely has it. Thanksgiving went around, almost the entire family has COVID now. So all of you that might have been watching or might watch in the future, I wish you the best. I hope you all get well soon. The wife's on the mend, daughter's feeling Me and the son, we're good. I guess my body is where Rona comes to die. This is the second time it's been in my house, and I don't have a single symptom. So I
mm.
guess I am just, maybe scientists need to come and get some blood from me or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Figure it out for the rest of the world. But hey, if I can be the cure, I will be the last of us. I'll take it. So,
yeah.
but with all that being said, let's just concentrate on hitting those like buttons, hitting the subscribes, hitting the bells. That way you're notified every time we go live, every time that we upload content. We are here weekly, multiple times a week with multiple podcasts. So make sure you check them all out. What Sasquatch Says, Nug Life, Breaking Broncos. The Answers 42 is coming soon. I don't have an exact date, but I am getting very, very close. I just need to find me a co-host for that. We're going to start talking news and politics over there. So be on the lookout for all of that. I am writing content. I have pumped out, I think at this point, almost 10 articles this week alone. That is going to continue to happen. Yes, guys, I am all in with you guys. I am giving you all the content that I possibly can. So make sure you guys go out and check out. I'll put the link right here for the latest article, which is a review of the Clippers and Nuggets game that I did. You will see that I give no dams about who was missing from that Clippers squad, because the Nuggets earned that victory. So make sure y'all check all of that out. Check out our YouTube. Damiano Cunega, appreciate you coming in. Make sure you come back every time. We love the conversation you brought with us, and we'd love to have more with you. And to everybody else, you don't have to just sit out there. We don't want to just talk at you. We would like to talk with you as well. So make sure you come in, join the lives, leave the comments here. Twitter, we just hit 5,000 followers on Twitter. So thank you guys for that. That is absolutely amazing. We're halfway to the 10K mark, where we can really start making money and pumping stuff out for y'all. So keep following, keep subscribing. Again, all those things are free for y'all, but they are priceless for us. It is what keeps us going and keeps this content coming to you. But I will go ahead and stop blowharding. We love all of you. We appreciate you. For the answer for the Nug Life podcast, I'm your host, Dan Weststein. At Santiago. For the Answers 42, don't question the blue.